Hi, it's Irene Weinberg, and welcome to the Grief and Rebirth podcast. Before we get started with the episode, make sure to like and subscribe wherever you're listening or watching so you never miss an episode. Every week, we share heartfelt stories, spiritual insights, and practical guidance to help you navigate grief and trauma, find hope, and discover rebirth after loss. By subscribing, you'll get access to every episode and join our supportive community on this journey. Thanks for being here, and let's dive in. Hi, everyone. I hope this message finds each of you so very well. I'm speaking to you today from my studio in West Orange, New Jersey, and I could not be more delighted to welcome Sally Dukes, a woman whose life has unfolded through many rich and varied chapters. From running a seasonal business to earning her master's in counseling psychology, to studying Sandplay therapy with Doric Health in Zurich. Sally has worked with children and adults and also taught middle school for 7 years, weaving together her love of history with her deep understanding of adolescence. Sally's new memoir, Drummer Girl, The Story of Life After Death, The Story of a Journey Home, is a story of resilience and Sally's lifelong search for what is radiant, true, and soul awakening beneath the surface of ordinary life. What she often refers to as the luminous. At the center of her journey is the near-death experience Sally had at just 3 years old during open heart surgery, an experience that stayed with her for 70 years. She describes being pulled through a dark tunnel toward a clear, radiant light and meeting a presence of unconditional love. That moment became the compass for her life, shaping her understanding of consciousness, suffering, and what it means to come home to ourselves. Drummer Girl unfolds in vignettes, some in first person, some in third, weaving symbolism, memory, and metaphor into a narrative that reads almost like a novel. Characters like Green Dog and a hand-drawn elephant appear across decades as guides, keepers, and reminders of the inner world Sally has been exploring her entire life. Through illness, loss, breast cancer at 45, and even a bold move to a Greek island during COVID, Sally shows us how meeting life's obstacles with awareness can open the door to awakening rather than despair. Her memoir is a powerful reflection on the tension between life and death, the mysteries that shape us, and the courage it takes to heal. I'm looking forward to talking with Sally, who joins us today from Souros, Greece, about the near-death experience she had at just 3 years old during open heart surgery, and how meeting life's obstacles with awareness can open the door to awakening rather than despair. We'll talk about how it is in our management of these obstacles that we grow into the people we are meant to become, how true healing comes when our stories are told to someone who truly listens, and more. Sally's story will surely help each of us to see how each experience of grief can become part of our own unfolding rebirth, guiding us toward a deeper, more awakened version of ourselves. Hi there, and welcome to the International Award-winning Grief and Rebirth podcast. I'm your host, author, and trauma survivor, Irene Weinberg, here to support you wherever you are on your healing journey. Each week, I connect with leading grief and trauma experts, intuitive healers, mediums, and inspiring voices who share powerful stories of loss, resilience, and transformation. If you're searching for hope, meaning, and a path forward after loss or trauma, you're in the right place. Together, let's rediscover joy, healing, and the possibility of rebirth. Hello, Sally. A warm welcome to Grief and Rebirth podcast.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Really, it's lovely. You've got such a nice countenance to you also, like a soothing, calming countenance. It's beautiful. So let's start from the beginning, because how many of us have had near-death experiences when we're only 3 years old, during open heart surgery, no less? And the fact that you've remembered this for 70 years is like, it was very profound. So could you share what happened as you were pulled through that dark tunnel towards the clear light, and how meeting that presence of unconditional love shaped your understanding of consciousness, suffering, and what it means to come home to ourselves?
Irene, that's a big
It's a
question,
big
but
question. I'll take you. So start with what was it like as you were pulled through the dark tunnel
yeah,
towards the clear
so
light?
I have a reoccurring dream as a child that I was put in a tunnel, pulled into a tunnel, a black tunnel, and I was pulled along and I was screaming because it was frightening. But on the outside of the tunnel, there were people that I didn't know, but there were people, but they didn't help me. And I went into the tunnel, and there was a loud, and I remember just being terrified until I saw
What
a
was the loud
pinpoint.
thing you were hearing?
I don't know, just like it was like I was on a conveyor belt, and it was chugging
Wow.
along, and I was terrified until I saw this light, and there was just a little light, and it calmed me, and then I was being pulled towards the light, and that was the numinous, the luminous, and with that, waves of purple energy, which I call love. I don't know what they would be because I don't know what state we were in to have a language, but purple love, a feeling that you've never felt. Yeah, I've never felt in this world, but a beautiful, comforting energy surrounded me.
Beautiful. You hadn't been away from home that long. I mean, you were just 3 years old.
Oh,
So
I know.
and you're right. So and that's really considered home. So you were coming home in a way
Yeah,
before you
right.
were ready to come home. So,
Exactly.
right? In what way has this near-death event that you had influenced your choices, perceptions, and compass of life?
Well, see, the problem was I never knew that it was a near death experience because I was 3, and so for most of my life, well, I had this dream. I'd go to bed and I'd get the dream. I'd get all the feeling and love and I always wanted to go back. I want to go back to that space because that was pure beauty. That was pure oneness, and I wanted to. So, I mean, I've always looked to go back. eh, So much so that it's like um been a thread through my entire life. And I it's just home. And that's what was I wanted to go home, and I never feared death because I know that on the other side it's pure love and beauty.
That's so true. And the other thing I wanna ask you is, you also I mean, we're talking about that was home, and by the way, it took away your fear of death, I would think.
It did, yeah.
You've never been afraid of dying. So, your life has unfolded in so many rich chapters. You've run a seasonal business on Nantucket. You've earned your master's in counseling psychology. You studied Sandplay therapy with Dora Kauf in Zurich, and you've taught middle school. My God, that's enough to that's a lifetime just in those 7 years teaching middle school. So how did those experiences shape your understanding of the inner world and prepare you to write your book?
Well, I would know it was the search. See, I was always searching to get back home. I was always searching. So when I went to Zurich to study, I studied with Dora Koff, who works with adults, who did work with adults and children in recovering language before there was language almost. It's a symbolic act. It's a sand play tray, and you work only with figures. You don't speak. You can speak, but you're not counting on language to uncover or recover a situation. So that was why I went to find out uh, what happened. I wanted to know what happened. And in the first sand tray, there was the entire scene, not consciously. It's not conscious, it's all unconscious. And that's usually the diagnosis, like, what's wrong? And there it is right in the tray. I had 3 huge train cars in the middle that were bigger than anything else in the tray. but they didn't have an engine, they didn't have a caboose, they didn't have track. They were just stuck. The same number as the age I was when I had the surgery. And then I had the tunnel and the nuns, or they weren't nuns, but they were the nurses, and the baby alone. And so there was a search. I went to find out what happened. And that's the same with going to grad school, because I thought I can find a language for the experience. And it was a program based on depth psychology, Carl Jung, Joseph Campbell. So I knew that I would be able to find some kind of depth language. I wanted language for the unconscious experience. But in middle school, it was very cool because I really
Tell me
liked.
how it was cool, because I have 2 middle school
Yeah,
age
they
grandchildren.
they really need to be seen. Kids need to be seen, and that's how you can. My opinion is, and as a teacher, they thrive if they can be seen, and they don't have to learn. I never tried to teach them the content of the learning. They did, but I really wanted to teach them to love to learn and really see who they were in relationship to learning, and to get to know themselves. So a lot of my writing, I was an English teacher and a history teacher and an algebra teacher, but
Wow.
a lot of the writing was for them to come forward themselves, and it was great. It was really good.
That's beautiful. And now I wanna ask you, your life has included illness, loss, breast cancer at 45. You've had a very easy life, Karen. There,
Yeah.
girl. Sally, it's just been a piece of cake. Illness, loss, breast cancer at 45, and then you made a bold move to a Greek island during COVID. How have you learned to meet obstacles with awareness rather than despair? Did that come from your experience? And what has taught you that healing requires courage? Sometimes
Well,
extraordinary.
I think yeah. But I think, when I wrote the book, a few reviews that I got said this was this was her childhood trauma. And I understand it was a trauma. But what I would like for readers to see is that the other side of trauma, there's resilience, and we're given trauma. We're not given trauma, but we face obstacles. We face trauma to find a way through trauma, or a way around trauma, or a way to shift the consciousness around the trauma, because we're all human. We're all going to have trauma. We all have pain. Those are our emotions, and we're also given the great gift of rebirthing, or you know learning how to get around it, go around the obstacle, or go through the obstacle. But so I have a lot of resilience, and I'm not that interested when there's a way to get through. I know it takes time, but
Do you
that
think
didn't.
that it's sort of a choice? Because I think people who go through trauma, some of them, they don't want to move forward and heal, so they kind of hang their hat on that issue
Yeah.
that happened to them. And here you, in a way, maybe because of what you had learned through your near-death experience and all, maybe you had more of awareness that I'm going to try to move through this consciously and heal as I go. Would you say it was sort of a choice that you made?
Yeah, I definitely always make that choice in everything, move forward.
Good for you, and you've been through a lot to keep moving forward, my goodness. So let's go to your drummer girl, the story of life after death, the story of a journey home. So now everybody knows what the journey home is about. It reads almost like a novel. It unfolds in vignettes across decades. Can you introduce us to your symbolic characters, the green dog and the hand-drawn elephant, who appear as guides, keepers, and reminders in the inner world you've been exploring your entire life? And why did you choose them? And how did you know that they were guides and keepers and reminders? How did you structure all of that?
Oh, I didn't do it on purpose. When I had the near death, I mean, when I came home from the hospital, I would scream at night. They'd put me to bed. I'd go to sleep. I'd scream.
This is after
They
your
they
open
put
heart surgery and after the near-death experience.
Yeah, this
Right.
is afterwards, and I'd scream and scream, and I think my parents were, like, crazy. So they took me back to Columbia Presbyterian in New York, and I met with the surgeon, and I met him alone. And I remember this, and people say, "How do you remember something at 3 years old?" Because you do remember. And I remember I sat there, and he said, "Tell me your dream." "I'm 3." I don't know that I could articulate it very well, but he did something cool. While I was talking, he drew a sketch. He was like, I thought he was taking notes. Perhaps he was on a yellow pad. And then when I got done, he ripped it off and handed it to me. And it was the sketch of an elephant on yellow lined paper. And he said, just hang this over your bed and you'll never have the dream again. So I did hang it over my bed, and I didn't have the screaming. I have that dream today still, but it was,
Wow.
well, I had been heard, I had been seen, I had been witnessed, and he gave me a way out, a way around it. And I always say, it was, people say, do you still have it? Well, my parents, they were like, get that thing off the wall. When it fell off the wall, they're like, sweep it up. Because it didn't mean anything to, it's like,
Yeah.
and the green dog, the day I was leaving for the hospital, the neighbor on the corner gave me the green dog. And
Uh-huh.
that was the thing I took to the hospital with me. And I've had it ever since. It was just,
When you talk about Green Dog in your book, it's very touching about how you
thank you.
took him everywhere you went, and that comforted you when you were so little, right?
Yeah. And yeah,
Yeah.
I can't let him go.
Has your understanding of the luminous evolved over time? And changed from when
Well,
you
what's interesting is that I'm not looking for it anymore, because what I realized in all my searching and that it's really, did you ever read The Alchemist with and Santiago goes out to find the treasure, and he ends up going all the way around and meeting all these obstacles, and he comes back and he actually is at home next to the tree where he first got the vision. Well, that's what I realized, that this is home. It's all good. I understand death and life are the same. We go through the shadows, we go through the light, and what we need to do is to be able to undulate like that, because this is it. This is life. This is it.
This is school.
Yeah.
I like in life is school. We each come here with lessons to learn.
Yep.
And boy, did you set up a bunch of lessons in your life to learn. Me
Yeah,
too.
what the heck?
What the heck?
Yeah.
Sometimes you wonder at the beginning of that lifetime before you manifest, what was I thinking?
Right.
So let's talk about, we're talking about how in life we're meant to encounter obstacles, large and small, and how we meet them is who we're meant to become. Would you like to talk a little bit more about that? Are we programmed that
I
these
think,
obstacles are part of a soul purpose?
well, I kind of believe that, but I don't know that other people would believe it. But I think they make you. It's like the diamond, and making a diamond out of making it shine, because you come up against it, and you kind of work it, and you learn, and then you go this way, and no life is without obstacles. I mean, I guess some people would back away from them, but life is here for we're here for a reason. But
Yeah.
so I believe
Absolutely.
that.
Well, let's talk about your memoir. What inspired you to bring it into the world?
Isn't that
And
crazy?
it's amazing. And what what inspired you? And I really want you to talk about how your near-death experience shaped your sense of death so deeply that you no longer fear death.
Oh,
And
I don't
I
feel
feel the
that.
same way because I had a near-death experience during the car accident also. And boy, does that change I call it the angle on the dangle in life. Oh my. So you want to talk about how that influenced you? So now you go through life, you go, okay, whatever's happened to me, it's a lesson. And I'm supposed to go through this, and you're not afraid of the endpoint.
Well, because I know what's on the other side, at least initially, because I've experienced it, and it's a wonderful thing. It really is. And also, when my mother died, she came that night. I didn't know she had died, but she came. The purple energy came and surrounded me when I was in bed, and I was like, "I think mom died," And the next morning, I got up and she had died.
Wow.
But so I know that you know this too, that the other side is not that far away.
No, they're all
The
around
other side
us.
of the veil is yeah. And also when, people I've been with, when they've died, I always ask people, "What happened when they died?" To like, if when you were next to your loved one. They said, "Well, my grandmother sat up and she said, 'They're all here. They're all here.'" So you're met. You don't die alone. You're met. You're met. You're guided. You're with your loved ones. I don't know what they're like, but you're with them. I know that. So why would you fear that? You meet love, you're with your loved ones. The only thing I fear is dying.
Yeah,
Because
actually, to go
we're getting old,
right.
I'm
As
starting.
the well, my mother used to refer to it as the age page. As the age
Yeah,
page keeps going, I mean, like,
yeah,
I have a passion about trying to keep myself healthy, take care of myself because I'm not afraid of dying, but until I get there, I got a
I
lot to
know.
do. I wanna feel good, right?
Yeah,
As
I
I'm
know,
doing
I
that,
know.
right? So, what would you say your story invites people to do? Does it invite them to understand about the healing power of coming into the light and going home, about the transformative power of being witnessed? How did writing Drummer Girl allow you to witness yourself in a new way? And what were you hoping to accomplish with people who read your book?
Well, it's a contemplation. It's really me contemplating. It's every time there was this is some journal entries and a lot of things that I found, I put them together, but it was always a time when I was troubled and I would write about it. And I think that's important to do. But it wasn't, I don't want anyone to dwell on sadness or trauma, or I want them to see the interplay between life and death, the contemplation, thinking, being aware of it, and the way it plays on in almost everything that we do daily. And that's
What would you say is the difference between a person who lives consciously, which happened to you and happened to me after our experiences, and the people who don't live consciously
very
are
difficult
not
to
aware?
be with. Yeah, it's very difficult to be with people that aren't. I don't want to say awake, but that have no reflective capacity. Because I think the reflection, the looking inward is a very important thing to so
Why
you
do you
know
feel
how
looking inward is that important?
because then you know who you are and you're congruent and you present as who you are. You're not like
You don't wait,
faking.
you don't have a mask on? You're not
Yeah,
presenting
yeah, right.
a false
Yeah,
your false
right.
social persona to the
Yeah, yeah,
world? Do you
yeah,
realize you're
exactly.
here for
See?
more than that?
Yeah. That's why I can't go to cocktail parties. But
Yeah, because you walk in and you're realizing all the different things that are really going on beneath the surface because
exactly. Well, see, I'm also very intuitive, I think, from the near-death experience, so I know a lot, and it when I get that incongruency, it bothers me,
me
and yet
too.
you can't call people out on it because they're not there yet, so
No, absolutely not. I kind of liken it to, in my life, they'll get it when they cross over. That's how
that's
I
right.
always
They'll
think
get it when
about
they're
it,
ready. Yep.
when they're ready, you know? Is there anything else you wanna tell us about Drummer Girl that you'd like our listeners to know about your book?
It's a very small book, so it's not a big read, and it's, everyone that has read it, that has talked to me, has found something in it that has been, I don't wanna say useful, but something that they've thought about themselves or they've had that kind of experience, and they've been very happy to have it as a companion.
It's
So
beautiful. It's beautiful. Oh, and I wanna know if you have a message about the importance of healing to share with our listeners, especially about the role of story, presence, and deep listening.
well, one time I applied to this program at Columbia because it was called narrative medicine, because at the medical school, they realized that this was a new phenomenon for them, that patients healed better and quicker if you actually listened to what they had to say. You know, and
What a novel concept.
you're right, right. So I applied. I got into the program, but when I they said, what do you want to do this for? You already write. You don't, I mean, this isn't, you don't need to learn how to write." And I knew how to listen, so I didn't really need to be in the program, but it was a novel concept for them that people actually heal if they're witnessed, if they're listened to, if you can join them genuinely. you know? Like you're like that. Because you can come from that place of
Absolutely.
heart. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So would you say it's really important for people to become conscious if they can and to heal their wounds and heal what's gone on in their lives? What's the benefit of that
It's so
as they move through their lives?
it's very difficult because you can't take a horse to water. I mean, you can take him to water, but you can't make him drink, you know? It's like it's people this is their job as a human, as an evolving human, that they should be healing,
Well, a
working
lot
towards
of people
healing.
listening to this are probably going, "Oh, so all this stuff that I'm going through, maybe I really need to work with somebody and work out my stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
It
otherwise, I may have to come back and repeat it all over again."
yeah. And why would you choose suffering when you can choose life?
Absolutely. And do you have a tip for finding joy in life, Sal?
Well, I have followed, I follow my own path, and I have a family, but we are now in Greece. We've been here for I think I'm on my 6th year of my visa, and, it's just it's the sea, the sun, the earth, and I just find joy in life
Being
here.
alive.
Yeah, here, and all the senses and it's someone said to me, "Well, you're so privileged." Well, we're not privileged. We made a decision. We made a decision to live simply somewhere that fed us, not where we had to feed our energy. So,
That
I
sounds to
guess
me like a conscious choice.
yeah, so follow your heart, follow your instincts.
And would you say when you heal that you can tune into joy more easily because
Oh, you have to, yeah,
you don't have
because
a lot of interfering brain waves coming in?
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, right? So, well, Sally, you know, as we close, I'm reminded that every soul carries a story. Your journey invites us to look tenderly at our own lives, to honor the obstacles that have shaped us, and to trust that healing is not only possible, but waiting for us the moment we choose awareness over
I
fear,
like that. I like that a lot. That's perfect.
right?
Yeah.
And I think your story encourages each of us to bring what has lived in the shadows into consciousness as you remember that we are never alone on the path home to ourselves, which is
Home to
really the
ourselves.
other
That's
side.
what I like. I like that. Yeah.
Tell us
Yeah.
about what do you feel when we say home to ourselves? What does that
Because
mean to
that
you?
that is that's our home. I mean, that's you have to trust yourself. That's one thing I have learned on this, and I've come up against a lot of obstacles. You have to trust yourself. You can't give yourself over to something you don't believe in. So home to me is trusting, right or
Your
wrong.
instincts.
Yeah.
And you're not playing to what everybody else thinks. I definitely
Well, that's the
get that
truth.
feeling. You learn to listen to your own
Yeah,
wise person inside, right? To tune into your own intuition,
that's right.
right? Well, I just want to thank you because this is a powerful interview, and I think a lot of people are going to learn a lot from it. And I appreciate you, and I wish you abundant blessings
Thank
always.
you so much. It's a pleasure being with you.
Thank you. Well, as I like to say, to be continued.
I like it.
Thanks for tuning in to Grief and Rebirth. Remember, you can dive deeper into everything we've discussed by checking out the show notes and all past episodes at griefandrebirth.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Irene S. Weinberg on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel at Healing from Grief and never miss a video. For those of you listening, you'll find links to my 2 books, Good to the Last Drop and They Serve Bagels in Heaven, in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see those books listed right above, so don't miss out. And here comes a special treat. If you sign up for Audible as a first-time user using my link, which you can find in the show notes, you can get They Serve Bagels in Heaven for free. And finally, people often ask me what I read, what I use, and what I recommend for healing and self-care. So I've carefully curated a compilation of those items to share with you. You can head over to www.amazon.com/shop/Irene S. Weinberg to check them out. And to my cherished Grief and Rebirth podcast fans, stay tuned and see you again soon.